Hello and welcome back to part 3 of the 1 week Miata rebuild. So we are swapping from a 5.3 aluminum block to a 6.2 aluminum block. So far we got the old engine out, everything stripped off of it that we need. We've got it over here on the stand. We got the new engine all together with all the stuff, the dry sump pan, the headers, etc. Got a new clutch on it, got it in the subframe ready to go. We're waiting on a throwout bearing for the trans. We can put the trans on, we can put this back in. We also have some fuel line stuff coming here shortly. We're gonna do that to the chassis. But basically now we're working on the fuel system and the interior stuff. We need to get the dash out. We need to get the old Holley Terminator out to put the new Holley Terminator in that's gonna work with the new engine and fuel system, engine reinstall. We got a bunch to do today. So we're gonna dive straight into it. It's always so scary, these break so easily. Can't remember if I can get this dash out without pulling my steering column down. Oh yeah, good. My original game plan was, when I was doing the engine swap and revamping the car, was to redo all my wiring, all my chassis wiring. So I'm replacing this PDM with a race pack PDM. I really like their setup. And I'm gonna be going from weather pack connectors for my sub harnesses to all Deutsch style connectors like this. Much nicer design. So the other thing I wanna do is loom all this stuff when I redo it. I didn't loom it originally because the loom didn't come in time and I had to get it done. But two, I kind of like it unloomed because it is really easy to diagnose. It might look like kind of a mess, but it's not as bad as it seems, I promise. And everything is loomed coming out of this area. So everything throughout the car is loomed and heat shrunk properly, but everything down here is not. So these are all individual sub harnesses. So like this one goes to my rear. This is like brake lights, tail lights, things like that. You know, this one goes to my fans. So anyway, it looks like kind of a mess, and some of it is a mess. Like I got to take some of this stuff out. Like this is for my content sensor, which is wired up a different way now and whatever. But anyway, my plan was to redo all this and make it all nice under here, because the rest of the way through the car, it's really nice. This is just kind of the messy, unseen area, the unsung hero of the car wiring, and you know, definitely not eye appealing. That is for sure. But anyway, moral of the story is we don't have time to do that right now. We're gonna leave it as it is just to get us through, and we are gonna be swapping though our Terminator ECU and our Terminator wiring harness. So this one is set up for a 24X LS engine, so it'd be a Gen 3 engine. We have a 58 tooth reluctor wheel, and we're doing drive-by-wire. So we have a different Terminator, Holley Terminator setup to go in here. We can keep things like our power wires, so we can just leave that. We don't have to mess with that. But we do need to pull this whole harness out and put the new harness in and kind of wire it up the same way, basically. Terminator harness and all. Like I said, this will be relatively easy because we can reuse a lot of stuff. Just leave it in there. I'm gonna give you guys just kind of a quick overview of all the stuff the Terminator X kit comes with, because every time I try to convert a friend from stock ECU to the Terminator X, once they realize like all the stuff that it comes with, they're mind blown and they're like, I didn't know it came with all that. So for those of you who don't know, Terminator X system, this is the Terminator X, $1,000 for the kit with everything. I'm putting the X Max in because I need the drive-by-wire capability. This one's a little more, I think it's like $1,300. But both of them come with all the same stuff. They come with a 3.5-inch touch screen deal, so you can use this as your gauges. You can have gauges on here. It's got an SD card slot. You can data log to the SD card. You can also put tunes on there and boom, boom, switch between your tunes. You can change things on this. Like I'll change my fan temp if it's a hot day, and you know, you can do like 75-80% of what you're gonna need to do on this. So I just leave it in the car. I don't have to bring my laptop most of the time. I can just do what I need to do on that. Comes with a wideband sensor. If you like ever looked at buying a wideband sensor engaged is like 200 bucks. Comes with a wideband sensor, has self-learning. So basically you set a target air fuel, the wideband sensor reads what your air fuel ratio is and adjusts accordingly. With the little touchscreen, you have a configuration wizard for your base map. Basically you put in engine size, injector size, cam, things like that. Basic information, it comes up with a base tune. Every car we put it on with the base tune, one, fired right up. Ben's was a struggle because he had some stuff hooked up wrong, but once things are hooked up correctly, fired right up. And then two, Ben's car is on that base map still with just the self-learning fuel on. He's driven 2 drift events, the car has run flawlessly. So no tuning. This car has not been taken to a tuner. It has not had a tune from someone else downloaded. It's literally the configuration tune with the self-learning on, absolute shredder. It's just incredible that they can bring all this stuff at this price point. I mean, it ends up being cheaper than doing a stock ECU with a conversion harness, HP tuners, and a wideband. And you get a standalone. You can just do so much cool stuff with it. It's just the way to go. It's just the way to go. So if you're doing an LS swap and you're on the fence about what ECU to go with, the Terminator X system, I mean, you just can't beat it. You can't beat it. So anyway, sorry, I feel pretty passionately about this. My car runs so much better on it than it did on the stock ECU, and it's way easier to deal with. So anyway, yeah, we got to get all this stuff in. Most of this will fall into the same places. The X-Max is bigger size-wise than the X is, so we'll have to figure out if we can still mount it the way it was or if we need to turn it or whatever. And then we got to route our drive-by-wire wiring harness and get our drive-by-wire pedal in and mount it. So we do have quite a bit to do under the dash, so enough talking about it. Let's get back to work. Before we start putting the wiring harness and everything in our way in the interior, I want to get the, oh, dang it, pedal assembly done. So basically here is our GM electric pedal. So this needs to go here. Yeah, I'm gonna start cutting this stuff off and start trying to come up with a mounting design. This is my rough game plan. Basically weld this guy on here. That'll extend it. It's hard to do with one hand. Enough to have mounting points there. It's the simplest way to do it. And I really am trying to minimize complication on this because we don't have time to make it super elaborate and fancy. So I think I'm going to start there. I think that's just what I'm going to do. I think that'll be the easy way to do it. And we'll do rib nut, rib nut, rib nut, spacer, spacer, bolt, done. Not too bad. Haven't been welded in quite a while. Alright, pedals mounted. We just gotta cut and weld some little spacers to go in here to cover that gap basically. What do you think? You think she's gonna bolt up? I mean, so far so good. It bolted up otherwise, so I think we'll be all right. Oh no! It really came out pretty much perfect. Exactly where I wanted it. All right. Sweet. Alrighty, got the Terminator mounted back in here. Boom. Use our same power plug. So now I just gotta route the harness to the firewall, start getting everything hooked up and routed. Sweet. Just gotta keep hustling. Indy was checking out the wiring. You want to check it back there too? I'm not done there. I got to run the wires to the surge tank. That's good. All right, cool. So I got all this done in here. Yes, I know it's messy. Like I said, I left everything long so when I do the new PDM, I can run fresh wire and not have to deal with like double butt connectors or double any connections. I hate that. So anyway, we'll be redoing this. Relax. I know your blood's boiling, but it's fine. It's great. It's fine. Pedals hooked up. All the wirings ran to the engine bay, the engine side of the harness. So last thing I need to do is run a power wire from that little coiled up red wire right there back. Yeah, that's what I was doing. Back to stage 2 of the pump. Stage 1 will run off the same power from the in-tank pump. So we'll have those two come on together automatically, and then basically the second stage will be triggered from the ECU. So we'll set a parameter in the ECU, say above 3,000 RPM and 30% throttle. It'll then trigger the PDM to send power out to the second fuel pump. 2 separate circuits. Now you guys probably don't care about all the details, but anyway, yeah, time to get back to work. Surge tank is officially mounted. We used rib nuts as usual, the fastener of choice. But yeah, mounted, wired up properly. Everything's good to go there. All we gotta do now is plumb it in with lines, which most of that will be easy. Most of it comes from just right over here. Just have the one 8AN feed going up to the rails to do, which I want to start on that now. But before we can plumb that in, we need to get the old feed out. So up she goes. All right, we got the stock line out. Well, not the stock line. The aftermarket line that we had previously installed is out. I also went ahead and added some P-clamps to my power and ground wires. So I have a ground running all the way to the front. So basically you can ground, I'm grounding from the engine all the way to the battery. And then obviously a power wire to the starter. And I put these in after the engine was in, so I can only P-clamp to there because obviously you can't get a impact in here with the trans in the way to self-tapper a self-tapper in or do anything. So yeah, anyway, one of those things I've been waiting until I pulled the engine out to go ahead and knock this out. So I'm glad I got to do that. Okay, feed. Gotta go back up top. Finally got some Deechworks soft jaws for the vise for doing AN lines. What a concept. There's a 90 on our feed, and now we gotta route it. You guys think I have enough AN lines back here? Oh man, I almost want to run the return all the way up just so I can have it. There's another line just lining out, dude. I went with sleeving that was a little big just in case I had to add it after the fittings. And they didn't have, I wanted to go a size down. This is inner diameter. I wanted 3/4, but didn't have it. This one's just a little hard to clamp over. Line is in, clamped all the way up. I'm gonna wait to cut it to final length and put the last fitting on it until the engine's in. I just wanna make sure I don't make it too short or too long because I have it kind of clamped more robustly this time. The last one was only clamped down there. This one I've clamped it all the way up to here. So yeah, anyway, we'll be able to do that in the car, blow it out, put the fitting on, boom, done. Feed line is done. We need to get our new Holley slave cylinder on the trans, swap our lines over to it, boom, boom. Put that on, then we can put the trans onto the engine and try to throw the engine in the car. I do need to do one more run through and just be 100% certain there's nothing else I should be doing with the engine out of the car. Definitely want to make sure I get everything that needs to be done with the engine out done before I put the freaking engine back in. And then I'm like, oh, dang it, I screwed myself. So anyway, I'm gonna run through that checklist and we're gonna start throwing that slave on, get the trans on the engine, get the engine in the car. New slave cylinder is on. At that end, also got my 4-foot bleeder line. So this will be really handy. I can just bleed straight back to the reservoir. Makes life way easier when you're bleeding the clutch. I only had a 1-foot-long one on there before. So anyway, it's time to put the trans on the engine and start getting it in the car. Lock the wheels on this thing, it's rolling away. There we go. All right, trans is on, ready to go. Really excited to have a new fresh shifter. I set it up properly this time. That was another mistake I made last time, causing premature wear. New clutch, remote bleeder, 6.2. Like, there's a lot of improvements going on here. So yeah, I went and double checked, make sure I don't have anything that I forgot to do. I'm sure there's got to be something. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I forgot to do. All the engines out under here, but I don't know. We're just gonna send it, throw this thing back in.
You're in. That's it. That's it.
My trans is like artificially high right now. Yep. Okay. It's up, right? Well, we got the engine back in, subframe, everything. Need to hook up the coilovers and then just start buttoning up the engine install. Wiring harness, plug wires, intake manifold lines. I do need to remake this oil line, but I want to get the dry sump pump on here first because I made it a little too long originally, which is what caused it. Basically, it rubbed up against the pan and wore into the braided material. It's basically down to the inner skin, which obviously if that fails, not good. So what's up, Sans? What do you think? Yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, anyway, just all that stuff. You guys know how it goes. So I'm gonna drop her down, get back to it. All right, well, that actually worked out quite well. Pulling the dry sump off, but leaving it all attached. Went on quite easy. It's the first time I pulled the motor since it's been dry sumped. All right, dry sump is officially back on. Old line, new line. Heat sleeved, mainly just for, again, abrasion resistance. Yeah. Throw it back in, make sure it still fits. I went a little bit shorter. This one's always been a bit too long, so hopefully it still fits good. Got that line back in. It is literally the perfect length, but it's a little too tight to work with the heat sleeving. It's like the heat sleeving pushes it over just that fractional amount to keep it from going on, but it's not making contact anywhere besides against the sleeving of this line through there. So I think that is going to be a winner. Leave it be, and then we'll have that other line as a spare in case we ever need it, have any issues. So cool. Dry sump plumbing is done. Oh, I am going to sleeve this line real quick because it kind of touches right here. Then we're done with the dry sump, that is. I'm just working on finishing off this AN feed line. I'm using all Deechworks stuff. If you guys have seen other parts of the build where I've done anything with an AN line, always Deechworks fittings, always Deechworks line. Amazing luck with it. Every other brand of fitting I've had issues with it leaking, this guy seizing up, and all sorts of stuff. Never had a problem with the Deechworks fitting. Plus, I love the color. It's beautiful. Anyway, I think I'm gonna stick with the 45 on here. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze now with the 8 AN line and the thick sleeving. So I'm gonna have to try to cut it a little long, put it on, and kind of see where we end up, and then go from there. We got it done. Got the 8 AN feed on with the 45. I like that routing because it goes behind the cylinder head since I have enough room there. So it's really clean compared to like coming up and over. But anyway, the return is the same, simple enough, just goes through the content sensor. So fuel lines, well, feed and return to the engine are done. The intake manifold has to come back off just because it'll be easier to route the wiring, and I've got tape there. So it has to, but it is cool to see it in there with the big Snake Eater Performance throttle body. So I got this throttle body from them, Snake Eater Performance. It's a nice big billet throttle body, and I've heard really good things about their stuff. So I have faith in it. Look at the sky or the color outside. Isn't that wild? Sometimes it'll be like yellow. It's interesting. Anyway, tomorrow, our fuel lines to our surge tank, feed and return from the tank, and then return from the engine to here. Then our surge tank will be done, and then from there, it's just putting everything back together, putting the rest of this stuff back together. You know, sway bar on, water pump, alternator, radiator, just, you know, reassembling the stuff that's already been in and out of the car. No big deal there. I am gonna wait to put the dash and stuff back in until we've got it fired up and running and all systems are go, because I don't want to shoot myself in the foot and put the dash back in and like I forgot one wire when I was rushing to wire up the Terminator, because that is something I would do. So yeah, anyway, hopefully tomorrow we can start it. Don't want to jinx myself by promising you guys that, but I mean, it's something bad would have to happen for us not to be able to at least get to the point of starting it tomorrow. So hope to see you guys for that, but for now we're out of time. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, goodbye.